A suspicious package was detonated in Utah at a university where a TPUSA event was supposed to take place. Apparently, this was a hoax, a threat, and the bomb squad was called in because they weren't entirely sure. But we're getting the details now on exactly what happened. So obviously, we'll talk about that, why it's happening. Apparently, there were many other bomb threats called in across Utah. With that, there's a lot to talk about with Trump deploying National Guard, supplementing federal agents in various cities, and how the left is going to respond to it. Plus, considering we are here live from TPUSA, I thought this is a pretty important thing to talk about. We also have a bunch of other news, though. The government is shutting down. The White House has a countdown on the shutdown. It appears inevitable, so we will talk about that, how the White House is reacting to it. Plus, this morning, Hegseth, Secretary of War, gave an amazing speech about how the military will no longer be woke. My favorite thing was that he's saying he's gonna make everybody, regardless of rank, maintain their physical fitness standards and get tested. And then The View got all butthurt about it. Was like, what's wrong with our soldiers being fat? Well, we're not having that anymore. So we're gonna talk about that, plus a whole lot more. Before we do, we got some great sponsors. We got Beam Dream. Head over to shopbeam.com/TimPool. Buy your Beam Dream right now. This is amazing stuff. You got the original cinnamon cocoa. I drink this every night before bed. It's got magnesium, L-theanine. It's got melatonin. It helps you sleep. And only 15 calories, no added sugar. It tastes great. If it was literally nothing but a cup of hot cocoa, I'd drink it anyway. But you know what? My sleep has improved markedly. I didn't even realize my sleep could be better because I thought I was doing pretty well. But I started drinking it consistently every single night. And now my sleep score is like 95 to 100, not even an exaggeration. So check out shopbeam.com/TimPool. Pick up your Beam Dream today. Also, we've got crypto.com, my friends. Check out crypto.com right now. Let's talk about cryptocurrency. It is no longer emerging. We're well past that. It is here to stay. The latest move cements the reality in a big way. Trump Media just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corp. And crypto.com, the crypto platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi staking rewards and real-world perks like cash back on your spends to establish America's first CRO treasury. Trump Media Group's CRO strategy. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest publicly traded CRO holder out there. If you want in, head over to crypto.com today, and y'all can make crypto great again. I think that's fun. I think crypto's great. I really do. I don't think it's currently great and getting better. For more information on the proposed business combination, check out Yorkville Acquisition Corp's public filings. Don't forget, you got to treat this stuff responsibility. You're responsible for all your trades, and investing does have risks. So smash that like button, my friends. Share the show right now with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we've got Jonathan Otto.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm an investigative journalist. I do a lot of work in the medical field. I'm the founder of a red light therapy company, Red Life. Always up for conversations around the cutting edge of what's going on, how to help people with life-threatening issues like cancer, autoimmune disease, and help people stay alive in these desperate times and give people solutions.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out. Jack Posobiec is here.
Tim, I appreciate you being here this week. I know you're going to be hosting for the great Charlie Kirk coming up, and
I'll do my best.
It's really great to see you and how all the people have really been coming in a time like this. We're here in the Turning Point studio. I remember a couple years back, you were out for an AmFest, and we actually tried to set up Timcast in this room, and remember it didn't work. At first it didn't work, but I think we went back to Charlie's studio or something, and. Yeah, so here we are, and it's working. We just we don't have Charlie with us in person.
Yeah, I know, man. When we walked in yesterday for the first time, and I saw right behind us is where Charlie helped put that studio together, plus the TPUSA crew.
Yeah.
And I walked up, and the first thing in my brain was like, "Hey, look at the screens. This is where we." And then my brain clicked. Charlie was killed, and it was like getting hit in the chest with a sledgehammer.
Coming into this building for myself was it hit in such a strange way that I wasn't expecting, because I guess the best word is haunted. It just felt, and not like haunted by Charlie, but just everything felt off. Like it felt off being in a place that I so associate with Charlie, but then also knowing that Charlie is not here and he's not coming back.
That's why I wanted to lead with this video of a detonation at the university.
Yeah, and everyone's safe, everyone's good. I've got info on that.
This is crazy.
But yeah.
All right. Well, Luke's hanging out too.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's refueling aircraft moving from Europe to the Middle East.
Yup.
The pizza index is pretty high near the Pentagon. But hey, at least the government is shutting down soon. So yeah, happy to be here. Luke Rudowski, youtube.com/wearechange. Też Jack, bardzo miło jest, że tutaj jesteś i super, że możemy gadać razem.
Dziękuję.
Tate's here.
What's up? I don't have any Polish for you guys, but good evening, Patriots.
Kto to
Happy to be here.
widział?
Dzień dobry.
Right?
Did I get that right? All right, here we go. We got the story from Newsweek. Suspicious package detonated ahead of Utah State Turning Point USA event. Utah State University ordered emergency evacuation Tuesday of its old main building after a suspicious package was found, university officials and local media reported. The campus was cleared as law enforcement and bomb squads investigated the device. We've actually got this video. This is crazy. Check this out. So, Jack, what happened?
Yeah, so what you're hearing there is the police. I'm not sure exactly if it was local police or campus. There were a lot of units, various agencies that were there protecting the Turning Point event. But what you're hearing is them using a device to render it safe and neutralize whatever would have been inside. What I've been told so that was not the bomb exploding or something like that. What I've been told is that it looks like this was a hoax bomb device. So this was not just a suspicious package that was left out. It was actually a package that had some, wires associated with it, things like that, where it was designed to look like a bomb. And that also there was a bomb threat called into the campus at the same time, so concurrent. And what it looks like is that they were trying to get a full campus-wide evacuation and then a lockdown to try to interfere with the Turning Point event that was taking place. Now, that old main building, that is not the building where the Turning Point event is going on and will continue to go on, which is on the other end of campus. That building is under complete lockdown by, as I just said, we've got state, local, federal agencies that are there protecting the event and the students today. So because that was under such lockdown, it seems that whoever was trying to do this didn't have any access to the arena where that's taking place. And what they instead did was try to attack another building that didn't have the same security posture and use that to try to create this disturbance. So while that building was evacuated, the event's going on, everybody is safe. First responders, absolutely hats off to everybody that was willing to put themselves into harm's way to do what they did to take measures to make sure that that device was in fact not an explosive device, keep everybody safe. But just unfortunately, that's the times that we're living in. And I also heard that report as well, that there were other universities around Utah, not where Turning Point's holding events. We're only holding one event tonight. We've got Alex Clark, we've got the governor there. So of course, state police are out in full force, a number of other officials. And so, and we had people who were even inside that event who didn't know about the bomb threat. So we called in, hey guys, are you all right? It said, all right from what? We're just out here and they've got volunteers, putting placards up and putting signs on chairs and things like that. So we'll let them know what was going on. They said no. And then, we've been able to sort of back channel since then, but it looks like something went on where multiple campuses around the state had threats.
Did you guys see? You did. I know you did. But Steven Crowder has brought back "Change My Mind." Yeah, and he went out today. He posted a video of this. It's brave to say the least. But Steven told me something a week or so ago. We did like an hour-long show together, and he said he feels bad. He feels guilty because when he was doing these events, he did not explain the threats and the violence he was facing. He downplayed it. And I think largely the reason he and many others, especially on the right, have not spoken about the threats and the violence they face is because we are constantly told you don't want to feed it. If you come out and you say these things are happening, you're going to make it worse. And what ends up happening is Crowder does these events. He rarely, only when it's on camera, when it actually happens, does he talk about it, and usually he doesn't. The same thing is true for us. Like I've been saying, we had that year where we got swatted 15 times. Yeah. It's never stopped. We just don't talk about it anymore because security says it's probably not a good idea. But the problem then is the perception most people have is, oh, they're fine. Nothing's really going on. And now, how has it gotten to the point where we are once again opening a show talking about a man that we miss who was taken from us by violent psychopath terrorists, and another event Turning Point's trying to put on to talk to people. This is very obvious that someone did this to try and shut your event down. It gets to this point, I think, with all due respect to each and every one of us who's been involved in this, because I don't think we talk about the seriousness of the threats we face enough. Out of concern, we'd make it worse. In fact, that just allowed it to grow and fester and get worse.
There were, I mean, just to confirm what you're saying, Charlie was getting death threats on a regular basis, even when, he calls the summer kind of like his off season, because that's when, school's out of session, but he would get threats all the time. Obviously, you guys are here. You've seen the security posture, which we have upped at the Turning Point facility since this took place. And in fact, we were in the process of, reconfiguring and enhancing and escalating the security presence here on the Turning Point campus, and you guys, I'm sure we don't have to go into it right now, but I'm sure you saw all the security that we have out now, the 24/7, the monitoring, the technical, and even stuff that you don't see. So Charlie was in the process of doing that here locally, hardening this facility when this happened. And so people were saying, oh, how come there's construction going on? It's like, well, no, we were in the process of doing that when we lost him, when he was murdered. And so this has been something that has gone on. Now, obviously, look, people have seen publicly, though, that people like when Riley Gaines was essentially detained by Antifa, a couple of years back, when Olivia Kralchik was attacked on campus, when Charlie has gone to events on campus and there's been these huge attacks, call it Antifa, call it left-wing groups, whatever you will. These are clearly coordinated violent events that were going on, and it just wasn't taken seriously. It wasn't taken seriously, I think, by law enforcement in general. Obviously, the previous administration didn't have any interest in going up against these groups, and in many cases facilitated these groups, and they still will sit there and claim that these things don't exist when we still have to deal with it on a regular basis.
They're celebrating it now.
Yeah.
They're either celebrated or defending the motivating ideology and the lies and the smears. Jack was mentioning, you got asked if we were in a civil war. Here goes Tim Pool saying civil war again. Everybody drink.
Yeah, we did that. We did that CNN interview. Like, see where that white dot is over there on the floor? That's pretty much where I was sitting.
I don't know how this, as Phil Labonte says, there's no off ramp. And it's fascinating. The response was, especially after Charlie was killed, that Charlie was the off ramp. He was going out and saying, let's talk about it. And he was talking with a lot of run-of-the-mill libs who were asking him questions. And I think this is what was so scary and is scary to these libs and these leftists, is that once people actually got a chance to talk to Charlie, they were like, oh, okay, this is not crazy. These are not far right. These are not a threat. And this is one of the motivating factors for why I think they want to stop these Turning Point events.
I mean, you look at it, right, and it's this idea of, well, people would sit there and say, and people do this all the time. They'll say, oh, well, Charlie said something on one of your podcasts, or he said something about MLK, and I know the whole litany of things that they say, and it's always out of context. But the point being is that even if you disagree with Charlie, or even if you think that he got his facts wrong or something, what better place to hash that out than in a literal conversation on a college campus. Right. I mean, this is the modern and classical public square. We're going to be on campus. He titled these things, prove me wrong, as in and if you disagreed, and I know it's been said, but it really needs to be pounded in, that if you disagreed with him, he would say, please come to the front of the line. And if people started heckling, he'd be like, hey, stop that. Yep. No heckling. If someone was nervous, if they were reading, he would say, it's okay. Take your time.
He'd say, let's afford them the grace they don't afford us.
Let's do that. I mean, there is nothing else he could have done to try to facilitate this kind of debate. And as Tim, to your point as well, I know you've talked about so many times that it's so hard to find people on the other side who are willing to even sit down and debate like that. You can't get them.
If you have money. We send out emails all the time, and the response from libs is usually how much. And so we don't ever give money or accept money for people to come on this show, because
I was about to say, man, I've been on the show how many times? Where's my money, Tim?
Wait, people are getting paid?
Wait, you're getting paid? Luke, what's going on, bro?
Nope. And so this is intentional. We don't let people buy their way on, which there are some shows that do. A big company will be like, hey, we'll give you money if you give us a guest spot. We don't do that. And there's and the inverse of trying to pay people to come on shows. When we email, they ask for money. We say we'll cover travel and accommodation. We don't pay. And they say not interested. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Sometimes there's some people who will, but they're usually smaller and they're trying to find a way to get attention. The big name guys, you know what I think about the liberals? I think their high priests are largely just what will get me clicks and make me money. Mm-hmm. And so they don't actually want to have a debate. Why is it? Who was it? I think Bill Maher did a segment on this where he said, he's like, we've reached out to the Clintons, to the Obamas. They won't come on the show to sit down with a guy who voted for him. Mm-hmm. But the conservatives are begging to come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that they're already...
Charlie went on Bill Maher. It was one of his last big, cross the aisle kind of interviews. He went on Gavin Newsom as well.
And I think that's why Bill Maher made the statements he did just a few days ago, saying, hey, this left-wing violence is insane and it's crazy. He's one of the few people that actually is speaking out against it. John Fetterman as well. He just came out and talked about how left-wing terrorism is at a 30-year high. And he's demanding people stop calling conservatives Hitler and fascists. So this has been building and brewing for a very long time. Tim, you've been calling it out. I know I've been looking at this for a very long time. Ever since Occupy Wall Street, they were playing up on these type of differences amongst race. And when we see Ilhan Omar a couple years ago now issuing the same lines like Don Lemon talking about how evil white men are, this brings up, even though they love white men and are married to white men themselves,
yeah, it's true.
Colonized in the sheets. These individuals clearly are spreading a rhetoric that is meant to dehumanize people. Mm-hmm. It's meant to devalue them. It's meant to destroy conversations from ever happening because you're Hitler, you're fascist, you're supposed to be someone that's going to be killing me and hurting me. That's their type of emotionally manipulated, gaslit type of viewpoint, which is deranged and insane and only going to become more deranged, especially with all the SSRIs and seed oils that they take. That's going to destroy their guts, and their gut lining is going to be destroyed, and then their minds are going to be destroyed.
And then you look at John Fetterman. I wish he would have had some more words for Josh Shapiro in the city of Philadelphia, where they just flew the flag of China over the city yesterday.
Yeah. Well, and it was like you were saying earlier, I mean, the fact that it's like pulling teeth to get them to even show up to these debates just shows that there's already been this culture on the left of just giving up on civil discourse anyway. So it's not really a surprise that they're getting more and more violent, especially now with the Trump administration. They feel like they're in the back foot. They feel like they're cornered. Of course they're going to lash out because there's already this culture of giving up on civil discourse. Let's
jump to this story. We got this on the Post-Millennial. Antifa terrorist threatens to effing smoke journalist Nick Shirley at Portland protest. But wait, there's more. On the rooftop, it appears DHS lasered this guy. So I'm assuming they've got counter snipers now for ICE, considering the 3 terror attacks that have happened already. This guy's threatening Nick Shirley for a good couple of minutes. All of a sudden, you see a light flash and a laser lands on this guy. 2 Antifa dudes come up and tell him to, like, hey, look out. They're pointing at you. This is a crazy escalation.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, if you look at the video too, because I watched this a few times, it almost looks like there's a laser on Nick as well. By the way,
it looks like it's just a laser. I don't think it's a rifle.
Yeah, and I do think
this is his lav light. The laser's clearly on the dude.
But the laser's kind of sloppy because it's far away, and you kind of see it kind of move over a little.
Yeah, because I think they were also trying to look for somebody who has been. I mean, I don't know, right? I'm just saying I'm not entirely sure.
Okay,
yeah, that's definitely his lav light. Okay.
I have the right to film. You have DHS watching you right there, lasered on you. You have a sniper lasered on you right now.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah, no, it's just on him.
Yeah,
so
that's alive.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. I don't know if we can say for sure it's definitely a sniper.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sniper. I think it's just a laser.
But who's on the roof with just a laser and why?
Like, if you're law enforcement, you want to pay attention to the situation, but obviously until it escalates, you don't want to put a sniper on somebody that you're already.
I think ICE has got counter snipers because they've been attacked by dudes hiding 100%. In the woods.
No. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying, based on that, I'm not 100% sure. But obviously, this video. That being said, though, this video infuriates me because this is Portland. Portland has had an active Rose City Antifa has been active in Portland since 2007. 20 years. 20 years they've been active. And who's controlling the streets right there? Right? Nick Shirley is the most peaceful guy you will ever meet in the game. He's a guy who does incredible work. He goes in some of the most violent areas and he's always completely chill. He doesn't get in anybody's face. He doesn't bother anybody. He's, very, very peaceful. He just reports. And yet this Antifa goon is able to walk up and threaten to kill him, could have killed him. And, I just don't understand how we've got to this point. Like, what is the federal government doing? I get that we've got deployments. Guys, we do not have positive control of the streets if you're allowing thugs and domestic terrorists like this psychopath to be able to do that to a guy like Nick. Or, by the way, do that to anybody.
Why has this been going on? I mean, since the escalation of the culture war with the battle for Berkeley and all this stuff, we started seeing these clashes. It has been nonstop that people on the right or anti-establishment press, not even anti-establishment, it was non-establishment press, are threatened with violence and death, don't fight back. And we are now in the second Trump term. He could have done something in the first term.
Yep.
He's not. What are they doing right now? I mean, I like this. At the bare minimum, pointing at him saying, we are watching you. And they have started making arrests. I like that the feds are being deployed. I like the National Guard being deployed. I think they should just go out and say, straight up, this is not a peaceful protest. You will be arrested. We're going to arrest you. We're going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're under arrest. I mean, people showing up to Portland threatening to kill journalists, it's not a peaceable assembly.
That could have gone sideways really fast for Nick. Yeah. And I think we all know that. And especially in a post-Charlie, same city. And in a post-Charlie Kirk world, we have to understand that someone like that wearing black in a mask is a violent and potentially lethal threat. Yeah. Period.
Well, you just have to believe in them when they tell you things like he's saying.
And he's saying, "I'm going to smoke you."
Yeah.
Like, right? We all know what that means.
Yeah. Either he really likes him, or.
And to Nick, I mean, brother, you can't be going out there by yourself, man. I mean, it looks like he's by himself in this clip. I don't know if he is or not, but
even if you have security is going to tell you, because I've dealt with this problem because I love being out there. I love on the street reporting. I can't do it anymore because you become the story. I don't want to become the story. I just want to document the story. Security is going to hold you back and say, no, sorry, you can't go in there. And they won't protect you, and they can't protect you in these type of situations, especially when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, 6 people, 20 people gather all around you. You're kind of screwed. And I've been in those situations too, where they just kind of surround you and they're like, you're a fascist. In Germany, they were calling me a fascist. And I'm like, I'm the Polish guy, right? All right. And you got Germans calling me a Nazi. And I'm like, get out of here. And then, of course, they pounced on me. And then the cops like, yeah, sorry, kid, get out of here. We can't help you. And I'm like, really? Like, okay.
All right. 5 years ago,
nice.
I was at they were doing this protest to try to tear down an Abraham Lincoln statue in Washington, D.C. And I went out there, I was with OAN at the time, and I went out there just to cover the event. And the minute they saw me, they're like, oh, Jack Posobiec is here. And then Antifa shows up, which, we weren't really expecting them to be there in the middle of the day like that. But because it was the summer of love, they were obviously way more heightened than usual. And there's that, picture of me and, the Antifa leader that came out that day. But I was instantly surrounded. And the police were on the outskirts of the park. So this was a national park because DC has a lot of like federal national parks around. And they couldn't even get to me at that point. And actually, it was Kevin Corke from Fox News had a security detail with him. And even though we're, quote unquote, competing networks, he had his own security detail. And I had like a videographer and another like an intern with me. And Kevin Corke was like, no, go help that guy out. So he sent his security detail in to get me out of there.
Have you guys seen this one from the Salt Lake Tribune? Bagley cartoon, Politics and Religion, the God-fearing right. And it is a ripped dude with camo pants and a black shirt loaded with guns and God We Trust and a MAGA hat. The radical violent left is some lanky guy with a guitar that says, this machine kills fascists. This is a cult.
Was it?
They're in a cult.
No. The somebody used to have that on their.
Yeah.
It looks like Ian if he had.
Bob Dylan or somebody.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Or was it? No, that was like Arlo Guthrie or something like that.
I don't know. The point is, when have we seen? Honest question. In the past 5 years,
Woody Guthrie was Woody Guthrie.
Was it a Was it a
Woody Guthrie?
Chad MAGA guy with a gun who's done anything like? Okay, I see this picture of this guy. What's the intention they're trying to make with this? Because I've seen MAGA dudes at the range. I've not seen churches get shot up or kids be killed. I've seen leftists do all of those things.
So the dynamic that we're dealing with right now is that while the right, on par per capita has more firearms, but the left is the one that's willing to use violence. And the left is the one that's willing to break the law and go out there and climb up on a roof and shoot someone in the neck. And the right is saying, hey, law enforcement, federal, state, local, which by the way, at Utah worked really well. So I don't want to sound like I'm putting down all of them, but it's like we don't want to go to that place. Whereas the left is saying, we don't care what the law is, you're a fascist. And by the way, that's what they mean when they say you are a fascist. I'm trying very careful to keep this within YouTube guidelines, but what they're saying is you are next on the list.
Yep.
And that's what that means. That is 100% what that means.
Well, even in the comic, like on the left, in God We Trust, that's a defensive posture. And even with the guitar, with the messaging on there, it's still an offensive posture.
Yeah, it's still a violent message.
It's still
it
an
is a violent message.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, it's not as a
But you get the
firearm,
propaganda. The propaganda is the God-fearing right are going to kill you because they're crazy guys with guns. But the violent left, it's just some guy who sings. What do you mean? And yeah.
Does he sing Bella Ciao?
Yeah, exactly. And then are they going to lie and claim the Groypers sing Bella Ciao because they think we're morons? But
it was
no.
a complete lie. It was a
Complete
complete
lie.
lie.
Made up.
Complete lie, baseless lie that the Groypers had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's murder. It was done. And by the way, though, it was done in such a way that Jimmy Kimmel, who came out and spread a version of that lie, that it was the MAGA right who did this, and by the way, that's why I, when I saw Joe Rogan laughing about it and that clip of me kind of blew up, I was like, well, look, I don't think this is a laughing matter, because what you're doing is you're painting a target on the backs of anyone on the right, saying you are the violent ones and the left are not violent. And it has been, this was a disinformation operation, and it was done so acutely that there's probably something like 30% or more, and I think some of the YouGov polls came out on this, that said that the left even think it was a liberal. Or excuse me, 30% of liberals thought that it was a conservative who shot Charlie Kirk.
I agree. What Joe said was, there's complaints about it, but what I was most offended by was when he said that Jimmy Kimmel's joke was funny.
It wasn't funny.
I mean, I am kidding, of course, but like, he said the joke was funny because he mocked Trump for not grieving properly. And my response to that bit was like, when Trump was asked about it and then said, look, we're doing construction or whatever, it's like, oh, did Trump just not hear? That's it.
Yeah, there's so much construction going on at the White House right now because they had to do like drainage on the South Lawn, and you can't hear stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking when my team, we were out in Portland doing just a rally around medical freedom a few years back, right? These were important conversations. Antifa, just like there was nothing that we were doing that was in any way aggressive toward their mission, but there they were banging on everything, like overpowering, making the doctors feel really unsafe for presenting. Del Bigtree and I was speaking out there, and Dr. Henry Ely just seeking to be a part of a positive change and seeking for medical freedom. And yet it was any conversation, anything that you say, we don't want you to say it. We don't want that discourse. And these were the things that meant that people like Charlie weren't safe in these environments. Isn't
it funny, though, that Antifa is just on the side of whatever big business and the government wants the narrative to be, they will fight for it? So it's like when I see these videos of there were a bunch of people that I can't even call them Trump supporters. They're just people protesting mask mandates. Antifa showed up, started beating the crap out of them. And I'm like, hold on. The Antifa people are attacking just random protesters who are outside of a hospital. There's a handful of them. They're not even political. They're not Trump supporters. They weren't. What is going on?
They're so neutral, right? They were just there to speak about medical freedom, which was good for those folks that were attacking them. That was a great thing for them to stand for.
Wild. Well, let's jump to the story. We got big news from Newsweek. Largest mass resignation in U.S. history as 100,000 federal workers quit.
Got what I voted for award.
Yeah, you see the Austin Peterson meme he posted of Donald Duck with the heart on saying, got what I voted for again award, and he's wearing a MAGA hat.
I want my medals.
Oh, no.
Not enough. I demand more.
Oh, no.
Yeah, some 100,000 federal workers are set to formally quit the U.S. government in what will constitute the largest mass resignation of government workers in U.S. history. The resignations, which come as part of the program drawn up by President Donald Trump at the start of his second administration, will happen on Tuesday, as Congress is facing a deadline on the same day to authorize more funding or risk government shutdown. If there is no deal, the White House has ordered federal agencies to make plans for the large-scale redundancies. I love this, though. They're like, why it matters. The loss of federal workers will have huge impacts on operations across different parts of government, and could disrupt services including the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Social Security Administration. No, hold on. Why did they bring up those two departments? Because they are attacking boomers intentionally who they think won't look into this and aren't paying attention. The 100,000 workers will disrupt everything. So why is Newsweek specifically highlighting SSA and the VA? They want boomers who are dependent on these things to be angry at Donald Trump, which explains why when I think it was Real Clear Politics put out their age support for Trump by age, the only age bracket that was anti-Trump was 70 plus.
Super boomers.
Super boomers. Every other age bracket was pro-Trump, except for I think 40-year-olds who were neutral. This is why they do it. I don't think it's going to work out for them very well because, and I mean this with all due respect to boomers, I don't want to be crass and crude when I say this, but they're at what's called the mortality shelf, the mortality cliff. Oldest boomers are now 79 years old. That's mortality. So what is being predicted now is within the next 5 years, we'll see something like 40 to 60% of boomers leave, in a manner of speaking, die. So this mainstream media attempt at pandering to the super boomers, as Jack described them, it's not going to play out for much longer. And what we're seeing now with Gen Z, and this does tie back into what we're seeing with the violence in the streets, TPUSA rallying young people, showing them the right path. I think the future of this country is moving in the right direction.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you want to pull it up, but like Bricksuit is at the Utah event right now, and he's posting videos from inside. It is packed to the rafters. It is a sea of patriots. People are cheering. People are chanting. Students and it looks like people from off campus. You know,
We're back.
no step back, no surrender.
Is this it right here?
That's it right there.
And they called in they planted a hoax device to try and shut the event down.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. No step back,
this is
no
what-
surrender.
This is what libs just don't realize is we have the secret sauce. We have patriots who will be like they will save this country kicking and screaming. It's the secret sauce. They don't realize you can't demoralize this demographic.
No, we actually literally do love God and country,
Yeah.
and we actually are willing to fight for it.
Yeah.
And the more of this that you do, the more events we're going to do, the more deployments we're going to do into races. Like, by the way, New Jersey, super tight race. You know, people are talking about getting in there. Scott Pressler, Cliff Maloney, myself, etc. You know, you've got this wave of positive energy that is going to completely sweep the nation. I know you saw what Benny Johnson was doing up there at Penn State.
Oh, yeah.
Nicole
Lot of
Shanahan. Nicole Shanahan's talking about doing a huge rally out in California to get a voter ID on the ballot. I mean, people are taking the horrible thing and truly horrible thing that happened to Charlie and saying, how do I get active? The ESPN host just said he might step down and run for Senate. He's like never even been political.
Who's Stephen Smith? Or you're not talking about him, are you?
No, in Alabama. And you know, and it just saying that, and specifically cited the inspiration, Paul Feinbaum, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he said, look, you know, them taking out Charlie made me step up and realize that maybe there's some things that are more important that I've been putting off, and to walk away from something like that is just amazing.
Well,
and that's what's happening right now.
Just to go back to this story, the real question I have for you guys, I suppose, is what do you think the ramifications of 100,000 federal workers quitting is going to be?
Well,
Nothing.
it's-
It's a drop in the
freedom will
bucket. We need
increase.
more. We need to increase those numbers. There's 2.4 million government employees.
It's a drop in the pan.
That's
Yeah.
nothing, right? So that's way too much employees. Fire as many of them as you can. Please start at the Federal Reserve. Start cutting at the CIA. They're not doing anything good for us.
The H-1B processors, just get rid of all of
Yeah,
them.
I will say, if you go on Zillow in Northern Virginia right now, it looks like the rapture happened. Like there's so many houses for sale. It's beautiful right now.
Yeah, it's like self-selection, right? Sometimes the doors that you need to close for people, they just close on themselves and say, look, I'm out. And it's like, okay, thank you for self-selecting. It makes it easier.
Yeah, Hegseth was saying this earlier. He said, if you don't like what I'm saying, then I expect you to resign, and we will say thank you for your service. I was like, yeah, fire them all.
I liked when Trump walked out. That clip you're playing earlier,
Yo.
where
We'll play that one in a second. But
Yeah,
wow.
where they all kind of realized that, hey, wait a minute. As it turns out, the American people made their voices heard. And Charlie Kirk was a huge part of that in the swing states, and the deployments that came out, the trainings that were done from Turning Point Action, going to youth, going to those low propensity voters, figuring out, and Tyler Boyer, of course, figuring out the formula to say, how do we go to people who have never voted before and get them interested in politics? And if we do that, that's different than saying, oh, we're getting a guy who's voted for Trump before. We're going to get someone who's never voted. And so when you look at it in terms of political mathematics, that's all profit. That's all net gain. So how do we go to particularly young men, young women as well, but particularly young men? Charlie understood that that's who he identified as that leading edge. And you've seen it in poll after poll, young Gen Z men breaking for Trump, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then of course right here in Arizona as well. And you can see the efforts play out because Arizona had the biggest swing from 2020 to 2024, and that's because of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point.
Yeah. I mean, that's with young men. What Kirk did was he just reminded young men of who they are. Like, you're an American, remember who you are. And that has a huge effect. I mean, obviously, it's a secret sauce. Young Patriots.
when you get like the high school football captain married to the beauty queen, and and shout out to Erica, Time 100, just dropped today, and it's like actually we can just be better than them, as it turns out.
You can just get them interested in politics. It's a very low bar. They're not that interested. So you just get them. What on earth?
Wait, I just pulled up the meme reference that Tate was making.
So true.
That's awesome.
So true.
Literally us Zoomer patriots.
I mean, this meme is really funny. For those just listening, it's a T-Rex emerging from the clouds telling a chicken, remember who you are. But there's some truth to it. Could you imagine what the founding fathers would say to us today, looking at this country, being like, no, this is all wrong. What is going on?
They were having a heart attack. They were like, what? Do you guys have an IRS? You guys have an ATF? What? Like, they would be...
Your armies are deployed where?
Yeah, all over the globe. What? How many
the Ottomans? What do you worry about the Ottomans
You're going to
for?
be bombing Iran again? Come on. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, come on. Those guys have flip-flops. Like, they're not a threat. All right?
Those guys have flip-flops.
What made Charlie so powerful is his ability to speak into the heart and soul of people being able to tap into ethics, morals, and have them self-governing, so that their convictions weren't just on a news cycle. It was something much deeper than that. And that's why these spiritual practices that he had were so powerful. And so you go back and you look at all these nuances, what made him the man that he was and is today. And it was all about deep personal devotion to God that makes you immovable when it comes to things pertaining to the conscience and morality, to hold to things like the Ten Commandments, which the Sabbath was so important to Charlie.
Yeah.
And I find that really inspirational.
Yeah, so it used to be that Charlie was always very accessible by phone. He was a texting addict. I asked him once, I said, how many texts do you send a day? Because when I'd spend time with him, he's just constantly, right? Just like Tim right now. And and he would say probably about 1,000.
Wow.
He just said probably about 1,000. And except on Saturdays. So if you wanted to get hold of Charlie on a Saturday, you would have to go to Erica, and that's only emergencies only. And we rarely would ever do that, but he would take Saturday off of his phone, and it would be pretty much Friday night into Saturday night, Sunday morning. There was no phone, and he would unplug, and it was all family time or reading or being with the Bible. And it just kind of hit me that on this past Saturday that I was thinking like, oh, I got to text Charlie this thing, and I was like, oh wait, it's Saturdays because my normal routine kicked in, so it's Saturday, so I can't text him. But then it kicked in again that every day is Saturday now.
Wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. The book that is set to drop December 9th, Stop, and In the Name of God, right? So this is Charlie's book. You guys probably could tell me more in terms of the release, but...
Yeah, so he's writing a book about this.
Yeah.
Or had written a book about this.
Yeah. Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. And this, if you look at the historical relevance of this, it was everything to do with people having deep devotion to God. And it was the underpinning, because what did Charlie stand for? The utmost morality. He was trying his very best to be moral in all categories, defending life, and then speaking about sexual impurity, debating the OnlyFans girls, or all these different things that were so important. And the underpinning of them that you look at the 10 Commandments, the Sabbath is the one that acknowledges God as the source of all things and says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all of your work, but the seventh day, the Sabbath of the Lord your God, in it you shall do no work. And that devotion gave people historically strength to withstand all types of oppression and persecution. Millions of people gave their lives because they were unwilling to surrender this day of worship because it was their allegiance to God, and it was for Charlie. And I think that that's something that people can really think about because it will cement morals and values so deeply in people that they will not be willing to let this country turn to trash.
Amen.
Let's jump to the next big story then about this country potentially turning to trash because the Democrats' shutdown, Trump is calling it. We've got, from the time of recording this, 3 hours and 20 minutes. This is the whitehouse.gov government shutdown clock with a big red banner saying Democrat shutdown is imminent. CNN says U.S. braces for government shutdown as midnight deadline looms.
Can I just say, CNN is hyping this up like it's going to be the purge or something. There's no laws after midnight and the siren comes out, like in the movie.
I thought that was the case. It's not the case?
No, it actually is. No, Trump's going to come out and he goes, I got a great idea.
Trump has an opportunity to do an incredible thing right now. He could say the Democrats don't want to fund it. You know what? We're not going to fund it. We're going to get rid of the IRS. We're going to get rid of the Federal Reserve. We're going to go on a GoFundMe system. And you're going to, so if you want to bomb Iran, here's our GoFundMe for bombing Iran.
Well,
if you want healthcare,
give, send, go.
If you want Social Security, give, send, go, sir. Yeah, you're right. Give, send, go. Yeah, so it's apologies for that. So give, send, go. But yeah, I mean, that's how the government should run.
In all seriousness, though, Trump wouldn't do that, but he does have an opportunity of firing lots more people.
Yeah.
He can say to them, okay, if you're not going to fund this, he already instructed federal agencies to prepare for redundancies. They're basically saying, we don't have the funding for this, so we're going to start firing way more people. The Democrats tried playing politics, as they often do, saying, we demand all of these policy changes. What did they want? They wanted, what was it, 1.5 trillion? They wanted funding, healthcare funding for non-citizens, for illegal immigrants. Mm-hmm. The Republicans say no to this. Democrats say then we're not going to vote for it. Now Trump can be like, oh, gee, I guess we can't pay. I guess we got to fire people.
Well, and there's that video from Maxine Waters that James Blair just tweeted out, and he's basically like, where she says something about, somebody asks her, okay, so are you really demanding healthcare for illegal aliens? And she's like, well, we want healthcare for everyone. It's like, so you admit it. Like, in the same token, right? Remember, illegal aliens don't vote, but then the illegal alien who was found to be a school board supervisor in Iowa is actually registered to vote in Maryland since 2012, and he's not a U.S. citizen at all. But I'm sure he never actually cast a ballot. I mean, that would be crazy, right?
Yeah, he's been here for what? How long has he been here? And he's been registered
12, 13 years or something?
Yep.
Or at least he was registered for that long. He might have been here longer.
And he was getting paid, what, $300,000 a year?
Yep. And it sounds to me like
dude.
that was probably, the name he's using is probably an assumed identity.
Yep.
And so he was under that because it's like a Bob Smith kind of name, and
this is nuts.
And
like
so
the
if that's
degree
happening,
to which,
then just imagine what we don't know about.
I think we hear these numbers like, oh, the high end is 20 million illegal immigrants came into this country. I think it's way higher than that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when we uncover things like this, where you got a guy working as a superintendent, getting paid low, mid six figures, I think it's probably way crazier than that. We get another story we'll get to in a little bit about how in Minnesota they found half of all of these people were, these migrants were committing immigration fraud to come to the United States.
Wait, not in Minnesota. Why?
Oh, heavens me. No, not in Minnesota.
No, not in Ilhan Omar's district.
No.
There's no way. There's no way at a fraud.
Well, you saw.
I mean, she's the shining epitome of ethics and morals.
Right.
I know. Look how much she loves her family.
Just, I mean, you look at that familial agape that we have there. It's Greek. It's very Greek.
Yeah, the city of brotherly love.
Yeah.
Philos
It's
Delphos.
not that one. But.
Philos Delphos. Yes.
Lots of Greek
You
words there.
saw like Stefanik. She put a memo out about how they're giving these CDLs out in blue states and there's just no name given on there. Like, imagine how many no-name givens there are in the country.
I think there was a raid or something, and they set up a checkpoint for CDLs, and I want to say it was Oklahoma just this week, or like the report came out this week, and they found something like 100 drivers in one raid, in just one checkpoint that evening. So if you can find that in one operation, I mean, again, do the math. Like, how many truckers do we have in this country, and how many should not be on the roads in this country?
And that's an industry where there is documentation required. So imagine
just obviously you're driving a semi down the
Right.
road, and we all see them. And I, honestly, like, I'm just going to say it, when I've noticed in my lifetime that it used to be that guys who were driving a semi, truck drivers, like, they were typically like some of the safest drivers on the road. Like, I remember growing up, and it was great, and you could, you like get them do the horn, and they were just fun. Or my dad was really big into CB radio, so we were always talking, even though he didn't drive a truck, but we were always talking to truckers and things like that because they use CB, and we all had handles and stuff. And I feel like that whole culture is gone now. And when you see one of those things driving down the road, the first thing I do is think, I got to get away from that, because they drive so unsafely whenever you see them now.
Oh yeah, you go to Love's now, and there's a whole trays of just samosas now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's game over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are delicious.
Yeah, but it's also a really bad indicator.
Right, but the indicator is
dude.
that
You guys got to understand the power of British colonialism. Like, chicken tikka masala was invented in Scotland.
It's true.
Orange chicken, I think, was made in Hawaii. Right? So a lot of people are like, look at all this food. We made it. It's ours. I take credit for it.
Well, it was combined, with the tomato sauce and everything.
Well, but let's be real. Britain invaded and took over these countries, stole their stuff, and made it better.
Well, I mean,
Could you imagine what
Tim, the diamonds are worthless if they stay in the ground.
Could you imagine with the world without colonization? No chicken tikka masala.
How would we live?
No orange chicken.
No orange chicken. How would we live?
We'd be eating maize.
I'll take my
goodness.
casseroles if it means getting my country back.
Porridge.
I'll put up with it.
By the way, recipes do exist. I always love that line where we're like, well, who's going to make the tacos? I'm like, my mom makes tacos.
Yeah.
Like, and Tanya can make tacos.
They live in, these liberals live in a weird cult reality. Like, to throw it back to the government shutdown stuff, they're acting like this is the apocalypse. Like you were saying, CNN, like the purge is going to happen. No one's going to notice a thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people who aren't going to get paychecks. I understand all that. That's bad for the people who work in government. But I don't think our government sector should be so big.
By the way, and I'll just say this, as having been a government worker, I think it was the 2014 shutdown, the Boehner one. It was like 13 or 14. And you get paid. You just get paid later. Like, everybody gets paid. It's all a farce.
Well,
and
the government can just print money whenever they want.
that they do. And what's going to happen, though, is that, and the reason you're seeing this response is because, you were talking theology and Charlie's theology. Well, the liberals have a theology too, and their theology is worship of the government. This is their theological devotion to government, particularly through the courts, the court system. And this is why you see them being so focused on there used to be the libertarian line about, you can't legislate morality, but that's exactly what the Democrats do. They just don't do it with their with a quote unquote organized religion, but they'll do it through every left wing religion that they can find.
Not just that, but you take a look at how we describe our rights. They are God-given.
Yeah.
They exist irrespective of government. And what do liberals say?
Tim Kaine.
Government grants your rights.
Yeah, Tim Kaine came up and got in that huge debate with, I believe it was Ted Cruz recently. He said, no, government gives you your rights. Government gives you your rights. And it's true that
you're not a citizen,
that
you're a
government,
subject.
And so what's true, though, is that no, Tim, government, Tim Kaine, government protects your rights. Government is supposed to be, in a working system. The reason that you have government is, say, you have the right to, well, let's take Charlie's example, the right to exist. And when you have a group of people that exist to oppress you and take away your right to exist, then you can't have dialogue with them. So your right to exist, your right to freedom of speech, and we have the whole litany of protected rights that just because, and the Constitution itself even says in the Bill of Rights, these rights are not the only rights you have. They are just the rights that we have written down specifically here because they are so important that we want to make sure they are enshrined.
It's funny, Jake, as you mention, if people don't let you exist, how are you supposed to live in this country? The left has been screaming that for the better part of 15 years.
They write it on their guitars.
And the funny thing is, literally none of the mainstream right was advocating for their elimination. They were just screaming things that weren't true. and have now started killing the people who are asking for a conversation. So I think now people on the right are starting to realize what time it is.
Yeah.
That's the terrifying reality.
This happened to my mother in Malaysia like 45 years ago under the Islamic government.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how oppressive it can be if you do not have the right to practice your faith the way that you need to do that, and to have your conscience, and to serve God, and not have the governments usurp that, so that people that are arguing for these ideals or these paradigms in a godless manner, or seeking to oppress the freedom of the conscience. My mom, the newspapers at the time, she got arrested and had her passport taken off her, so she couldn't actually even escape the country. And the Australian newspapers said, Islamic woman converts to Christianity, is death penalty possible? And that was exactly what was invoked with my mother, simply because she wanted to change her beliefs. And we need to have systems that support our ability to practice our faith freely. And by a series of 3 miracles, she actually escaped, which is incredible. One of which, she was visited on foot by a gentleman that explained to her that the indoctrination camp that she did get sentenced to, she was going to get executed at, and he left on foot. This was a non-publicized case. How did he know this? It was just a judge in the room that sentenced her, and now she's got this intel she needs to escape, and then 2 other miracles happened. And so it's, look, personal faith, the ability to practice these things, understanding that when people seek to oppress your freedom, and how you seek to enter into discourse, the freedom by which you can dialogue, these are things that we need to fight for, and that's what Charlie stood for.
Let's jump to the story from Newsweek. Trump threatens to fire generals on the spot if he doesn't like them. We got this clip. It's absolutely amazing. Rapid Response 47 of Donald Trump greeting these a bunch of generals and commanding officers.
I think it was all the generals.
It was all the generals?
All the generals.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future.
Oh, wow.
But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time. But thank you.
I love that.
Pete.
I love that.
Amazing.
No one's ever talked to so this is general officer, flag officer, so generals and admirals on the Navy side, and Coast Guard, if they have any admirals there, that just, again, no one's ever talked to them like that. They have so much power within the military system. They are considered, just the highest of the highest, staff upon staff upon staff, and they're constantly competing with one another. The vast majority of them who came up during the Obama years and the Biden years, they look down on Trump. We've seen all of the military, political correctness that was put out. Darren Beattie did a huge piece on this on Revolver and was talking about this, how they were specifically getting rid of people. And in many cases, through the military war colleges, you would find that under Obama, really starting with Obama 1, that they promoted from within people who had the right kind of politics. So people learned to parrot critical race theory or DEI or all of these climate change, whatever the various things were, LGBT, make sure you push all this stuff or you won't make rank, you won't be able to get all the way up there. And so that's what they all did. They all just went along with it. And suddenly they're sitting there going like, wait, who are you to tell us this? You didn't do any of that stuff. Well, he's the president of the United States, and actually he's your commander in chief. You're not the commander. He's the one that the American people voted for and delegated sovereign authority over the United States military and all other sovereign powers of the executive too.
The liberals should be terrified of these people. These are generals who are willing to say and do anything for political power. These are the people who would follow any order without any shred of conscience. Donald Trump should fire these people. We want brave men and women who are going to stand up truly for what they believe in and for this country, not just hire overweight people to fill quotas so they can get political points and advance their career.
I mean, I'd be totally fine with firing the vast majority of them. America would be better off. I mean, you got a problem with the force in terms of not just the the 07 level and above, but 07 to 010, but you've got this across the government, because those systems that I just talked about, where the Obamas and then the Biden admin just went on steroids with this. Plus, they were getting rid of people over COVID. Those people, even if they come back, they're never going to be on their career leadership track again. And so what they did is they set up an incentive structure for you to, quote unquote, be liberal, be a leftist, and then you could make rank. And that's not just in the military. That's across every single federal agency.
Well, let's play ball. How about Hegseth just says, okay, those guys that stood up for what they believed in and refused and either resigned or were let go, come back, and we're going to bump you up.
I mean, you can. You totally you can.
Trump can do whatever he wants.
There's the President of the United States as Commander in Chief. I mean, he'd have to sign a lot of documents. He could promote anybody right now, and he could also bust them down right now if he wanted to. He has absolute authority to do so.
What do you think would happen if he went to these
Absolute
generals and just said,
constitutional authority.
What if he demoted them?
That's what I'm saying. He could bust you. He
But I
could
mean,
bust
would
them
they-
down
would
to
they,
the rank
they
of
quit?
01 if he wanted to. Or what he could do is he could reduce.
That's just insulting
He
them.
could leave them in rank because there is legislation there. So he could leave them in rank, but he could reduce them in pay to that of a butter bar or to an 01. And he could switch their orders, and make them all have to deploy to Antarctica or something.
No way, Antarctica's fun.
Okay, where should we send them?
It's got to be somewhere like Tate. It's like they got to clean the streets of Baltimore or something.
He'd totally make them do all that.
Someone's got to peel the potatoes.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I like cleaning the streets of Baltimore. Or
Baltimore needs clean
there's
streets.
that video going around of, I guess it was the it wasn't the military, but it was Border Patrol, and they were up armored going down that one bridge in Chicago over the river, and they're right in front of Trump Hotel. And David Axelrod is like, just look at this picture. One picture says 1,000 words, and I said, yeah, and this one says, hell yeah.
Dude, I'll scream to the heavens. I'm from Chicago. My friends, everybody I know, they're like, cool. No, I don't know anybody complaining about it. There's two reactions I get from my friends back home. It's, I don't know. Like, oh, hey, did you see the ICE guys walking around downtown? Oh, are they? Yeah, they're walking down the street. They're by Whacker, and they go, oh. The other reaction is, hell yeah. I don't know anybody going, this is wrong, this is authority. I don't know, man. Neighborhood I'm from, people are happy that it's finally getting cleaned up. People are tired of having to get worried about being mugged or shot at in a ridiculous city.
I just say, hey man, put Philly on the list. Don't forget Philly. Keep in mind, if we're doing America 250, we need Philly to be cleaned up by then.
Oh, that's a good point.
Need Philly to be cleaned up by
Next
the
year?
4th of J.
We only got, 9 months?
No, we only got a couple
Not
months
even.
left.
Not
Not
even.
even.
I'm in Memphis.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
I'm-
glad we jumped the line. I'm very happy,
Man,
Yeah, that's
Memphis
not
is
okay.
so.
Yeah.
Memphis jumping the line.
Memphis is. Yeah, why does Memphis jump the line?
because we have
being said,
FedEx. We got to get these packages out.
that being said, what they do in Memphis, it's horrific.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's every city though. It's every single American city that has become completely lawless. That's completely. You talk about Portland and the Nick Shirley video, but it's every city. You can't have this anymore. We saw what happened in North Carolina, and
It's on purpose.
These crooks. Well, it's absolutely on purpose. It is a system called anarcho-tyranny, whereby an anarchy is allowed out on the streets to cow and terrify. It is domestic terrorism against your own populace to say, these criminals will be allowed out. 39 times was the one Elon was tweeting about earlier today, and he executed this. I think that was South Carolina.
Yeah.
And her father came out and executed this girl on her knees.
Logan
Been
Federico.
arrested 39 times. Yes, thank you. And
That father is being very nice.
I would not be able to just sit down and have a
And
conversation
yell
if something like that happens.
Yeah.
And the point is, you will support the tyranny because the anarchy keeps you in check because you're so scared.
Yeah.
But one of the big pieces of this too is that governors have sovereignty in this country, not mayors. Mayors and cities do not have sovereignty. And yes, there's a lot of home rule charters that were passed in the 1970s, but constitutionally, that is not sound at all. Under every state's law, the governor has sole sovereign authority of each state. And so when you've got these states, like at least South Carolina now, I know North Carolina has a Democrat governor and a Democrat AG, but in a place like South Carolina or Texas or, take your pick, the governor's just got to start coming in.
Not to nitpick, it's not full anarchy because people who defend themselves are prosecuted by the George George Soros district
That's a
attorneys.
narco-tyranny.
But it's not enforced where the government just stays out of the way. The government makes sure that when you stand up for yourself and you get attacked by these gangs that are approved by the state and have the state causes that they fight for, just like the Chavistas in Venezuela, the state always protects the people who are committing the crimes on behalf of the establishment, but the people who defend themselves have to can't fight back.
That's
right,
called
and that's
a
right. And
narco-tyranny.
no, he's explaining. I didn't explain it. You're right. That's the tyranny side, right? So the tyranny side is if you defend yourself, you're a terrorist. You are someone who's an evildoer. You are someone who's like, wait a minute, they came at me, or this guy was going crazy on the train, like Daniel Penny, and I defended myself. Like, and we can all sit and watch that horrific video of Irina Zarutka. That was one of the last things I talked to Charlie about. One of the very last things I talked to Charlie about. Well, I think you can go look on his Twitter. It's like one of the last tweets that he actually had up was about her. Imagine if there was a Daniel Penny on that train. Now, I don't know if he'd been able to get there quick enough, just given the extreme nature and like the speed about what happened. But again, that's the point. He knew that there were no Daniel Pennies out there.
Yeah.
It's the culture. It's the culture of knowing that you could get away with this stuff and they won't do anything to you.
That's right.
And if there was a culture of, people are able to carry firearms, people are able to defend themselves. If there wasn't national public examples of people defending themselves that are getting in trouble, the situation would be different and criminals would be thinking a lot different than they are.
They're like, I'm going to go to jail and I'm not going to get out in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And regardless, all of this too, it's like El Salvador has just proven in 2025 that crime is just optional. Like it's just you can just turn it off.
You can just turn it off.
Not hard. Yeah.
Bukele.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe we need to be more like El Salvador.
Every liberal academic has just been completely debunked for like the last 50 years. Well, what if we offer? No. Well, what if? No, shut up.
You mean we can't just
Bukele.
let the violent murderers onto the street?
Bukele.
Yeah.
Just Bukele every city.
Yeah,
Bukele every single city in
hire
America.
Bukele as a consultant for every major city to go one.
Yeah, it's like he
city at a
can't
time.
run for president, but can Trump appoint him like as a
Just pay contractor. We just
special
consult him.
government employee, special consultant. What was Elon? Was SGE, right?
Yeah.
Just he's a special consultant, right?
Yeah.
I think the only way to get to the real root of this issue is exactly what Charlie would do, to have discourse with people that help people navigate to their true north, because violence will always exist unless there is a deeper philosophy, a belief, a morality that transcends that and that gives people a reason not to do those things, not to violate somebody else. And if I was doing some research last night on J.D. Unwin, who was from Oxford. He was looking at what happens over societies. He studied 81 different societies and looked at the moral, firstly, the sexual revolutions that would happen. And then 3 generations down, the society would become so worthless and so degraded that they would become overthrown by another group. And he was not a Christian as well, or he certainly was not known to be. And so he was commenting on this big issue. And if you look, we're 3 generations from the free love and the free sex movement, which was a complete degradation of Christian values. And the product we have, we're seeing it today.
Yep.
And to bring people back to that true north, because again, you look at the 10 Commandments. It says blatantly, "Thou shalt not kill," and these are the things that then.
Thou shalt not murder.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that one's a deep one, and the part on that I'm sure that we'd agree on, that people taking these matters into their own hands and going out to the streets and doing violent things.
But
and
we don't
propagating.
want to get to that point. And by the way, you mentioned Malaysia. I mean, what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore, right next door, is he took an area that was a complete backwater port and turned it into one of the 4 Asian tigers, and he did so through this imposition of a very strict legal system that was applied across the board. It was applied across the board. It didn't matter what rung of society you were from, that if you broke the laws or if you were an American tourist, guess what? This is going to be applied to you. And he took that and he made it this shining example of one of the most dynamic cities and robust cities in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump to this. We got this video. You see, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, said he's going to PT everybody. It doesn't matter your rank. You got to be physically fit.
Good.
Well, The View
He
had
fat-shamed him.
He did. The View had something to say about this. Let's listen to it and then make fun of them.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat. And I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
It was really a bizarre thing. He started talking about woke DEI policies. By the way, there are no gender quotas in the military. By the way, he fired more than a dozen military leaders, many of them people of color and women. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Charles Brown Jr., who is African American.
Yeah.
He fired the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti. I don't understand the sort of hypocrisy of firing these people, having all these people meet together, and then denigrating them.
But did you look at it? They're looking at him like he has two heads.
Well, they didn't applaud the beginning of that.
Yeah.
You just saw the president is. President Trump said, if you want to applaud, you applaud. If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, and then you heard the rest. There goes your rank and your future.
But by the way, every one of these men and women in this room has been taught the entire time they've been in service that it is apolitical. You're not right, left, you're not red, blue, you're not Republican, Democrat. They don't show their politics because what you're doing on the battlefield is above politics. So they're not going to applaud, they're not going to cheer, they're not going to boo. They're going to show up and listen to the commander-in-chief. But
Remember when they hunted down members of the military social media profiles to figure out if they'd posted things like the Gadsden flag and they'd been reprimanded or even kicked out?
Well, the people who didn't take the coup, you know.
Well, so when Pete Hegseth himself wrote an entire book about how during the post-Jan 6 deployment, when our entire military occupied Washington, D.C., and Biden's inauguration was not attended by anyone, that they came up with a list, and this is where the military purge came from, the Patriot Purge, that they came up with a list of, you know, hot button issues, controversial issues that could be indicators for extremism, and those people were not allowed to participate in this deployment to Jan 6, which included Pete Hegseth himself, by the way, because of his Christian cross tattoo, his Jerusalem cross. And so the Gadsden flag was one of them, the Jerusalem cross, NRA. Like if you liked the page on Facebook, this was a thing. And believe it or not, I reported at the time, Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA was on that list, which we later come to find that Turning Point was put under FBI investigation.
That's right.
And so this is what they use to deny people, again, rank, to deny orders, to deny that leadership track, all of it.
But I don't understand, Jack. I don't get why he's saying this. I mean, why does it matter if our combat troops are fat?
I would just love to put up a picture of General Milley right now to kind of show who the leader of the military was.
But they're less likely to be liberal, right? Because there's studies showing people who are fit are more likely to be right wing.
That's right.
So this is probably a nice little covert wink wink type of way to be like, okay, we want to make sure that the military is more right wing. You got to be in shape in order to do that.
Yeah, John Doyle, he tweeted, you can basically just purge the military of libtards by enforcing obvious PT standards.
Yes. I once
so true.
I once went down the rabbit hole on General Milley, and I went down like all the public photos and photojournalism that's been released by the Pentagon and all their units. I've never been able to find a single picture of him doing PT. Like not even one, not even like a fun run kind of thing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It does not exist.
All the liberals just quit.
And by the way, Sonny Huston, you know, let's be fair. This is not the first time she has been befuddled by something that has gone on in the world. She just lives in a constant state of befuddlement, as she said. I also thought it was very interesting, just to kind of respond to the clip, that she said there's no such thing as quotas. And then she goes on to try to enforce quotas by saying, you fired the African-American Joint Chief of Staff. You fired the woman who was in charge of the Navy. So she just did the exact thing that she claimed didn't exist.
But it's also just like, sometimes black people get fired, dude. Like, are you saying that they can never be fired? I don't understand what the point of bringing that up is. He fired a guy who was black. Okay, why? Did he do a bad job, or what's your point?
They didn't give statistics either and said, this is the portion that was this ethnicity. It was just, here's one number. Let's make a case out of this.
I think, honestly, this is it really does feel often the culture war is male versus female. And you look at The View, and they have a very female view, this very emotional, social view of how the military should be run. We should have a diverse rainbow where everyone holds hands and gets along and don't be mean. And then the masculine view is, you should be chewing on dirt and crawling through razor wire to be the best man you can be, an efficient killing machine for war. And one of them is appropriate for war fighters and one of them is not.
I'm being told there are 6,000 patriots assembled in Utah right now.
Let's go.
So and by the way, we should, just to contextualize this, this is the first Turning Point event that's been held in Utah since Charlie was murdered in Utah at a Turning Point event. So this was going to be his second stop. So what we're doing is we're continuing Charlie's tour, but with guest speakers. And I think the vice president came out earlier today and said that he is interested in being one of those speakers.
Wow.
Don Jr. is interested. I mean, the level is just phenomenal. And rather than, and a lot of people would say, like, why didn't you cancel the tour? And I think, and I speak for everybody here in the sense that we've talked about this and we know Charlie wouldn't want us to. And so you see the response, you see 6,000 patriots, even in the face of a bomb threat, even knowing that there was a murder just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow, that, however many miles away in the same state, that they're still willing to do so in the face of terrorism. So no, actually, your attack failed. It completely failed because more and more people are showing up to Turning Point events, and Turning Point is going to be bigger than it had ever been before.
Yeah. If the blood of the greatest men in human history running through their veins, you're not going to break these people. It's impossible. Good luck.
It's pretty amazing to see the numbers. What is it like? How many chapter requests popped up after?
I mean, honestly, we saw 62,000 was the first number that we got in, but at the same time, I think that was the number by the time of the memorial. But I mean, the number keeps changing from day to day. I probably have it written down actually on the other side of the office.
We're in the room.
Here.
I mean, someone.
Yeah, no, I think there's a whiteboard on the other side of the room here where they keep a running tally. But it got to the point where they can't even update the whiteboard fast enough because there's so many chapters and requests that are coming. And by the way, these are chapters requests, so not just people. And that number is even higher.
It's also the church attendance. Has skyrocketed.
It's the Charlie effect. It's the Charlie revival. It is this idea that, and I've just in my personal life had so many people reaching out to me saying, what do I do? And I'll give a shout out to Tyler Boyer because he had this great quote when we were at the ASU vigil. He said, "Going to church isn't hard. You just go."
Yeah.
They don't want you to know this, but you can just walk into a church and sit down and pray.
Yeah.
You can just do this.
And
You can just
like,
do it.
Happy to see you.
Yeah, they're you're just allowed to do that. CNN won't tell you
No,
this.
it's hidden esoteric knowledge.
Yeah.
People at church like when people show up. It's great.
I mean, and I'll say this too. There's a lot of I hear a lot of stories from young men where they're like, I don't have any friends. I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to begin. It's like you can go to church.
Yeah.
You can go for walks, start exercising, and meet people in these communities.
I met my wife at a Bible study. Believe it or not.
go.
That's a secret because we were talking about this the other night where I said you got these red pill bros that are like, nah, you can't get married, man. All these women, they're hoes and blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, you live in
Not the
Miami.
ones at Bible study.
Yeah, that's the right faith. That ripple effect, the Charlie effect. It was before Martin Luther, the Catholic monk that was the Protestant reformer in the 1500s. There was somebody that was being martyred and in the flames, right? So he was being burnt at the stake, which was common. He said these words: "You cannot kill us, for the blood of a martyr is seed." And then you see this, all like the effect and just the utter horror of people having a realization of what is happening to this country, what is the attack on the innocence of somebody entering into dialogue, somebody that wanted to elevate everyone that he came in contact with and respectfully dialogue with them. And then to see that life taken and just like it brought up all the feelings of when I first came to a Christian faith and witnessed Jesus on the cross, and that effect that had on me, and how it just propelled me and changed me, and what made me want to be better, made me want to do better, made me want to break free from addiction and break free from pornography addiction, make me want to be better, and it did that for me. It transformed my life.
That's great. Today is, and congrats. Today is actually I wasn't going to mention this, but since you bring it up, I haven't had a drink in 20 years as of today. Today's actually, we did the whole thing on my show about it. And 20 years just clean living. And, I never really considered myself like an addict to it. It was just something where I said, I'm done. I'm totally done with this. And I was in a bit of a rough spot, and I said, God, if you get me out of this, I'm never going to go back. And he got me out of it. So and never went back.
Let's go.
Wow.
Congrats.
Simple as that. Thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the story we got from the
You
New
can
York
do it.
Post.
You can do it, folks.
Come
You
on.
can do it.
Bombshell
Yeah.
ICE sweep in Minneapolis, St. Paul finds 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud. Now, of course, there is the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, and we call Minneapolis, St. Paul the cities of brother-sister love.
It's very true.
Very, very true.
Oh, man.
There's a whole country like this,
You
actually.
went there.
Yeah.
Several. There's a region, actually.
Yeah, there's.
Don't their cousins usually, do something?
I don't know about
together?
that. I just know
Rates-
that
rates
brothers
of
and
cousin
sisters really
marriage.
love each other. Nearly half of all immigrants
What's
in
wrong with
Minneapolis,
loving
St.
your
Paul.
brother and sister, Tim?
It's a kind of love.
What do you mean?
Nearly half of all immigrants in the Minneapolis, St. Paul Twin Cities were found to have committed some form of immigration fraud during a recent sweep by immigration authorities. Officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstay, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found, forged documents, abuse of the H-1B visa system, abuse of the F-1 visa, and many other discrepancies. Officials didn't point to a specific group, but the Twin Cities has seen a massive uptick in Somali refugees and immigrants in recent years, with more than 82,000 from the East African country living in Minnesota. Are they going to deport Ilhan?
That'd be so big.
So committing immigration fraud and education fraud as well, is grounds for having your citizenship revoked and being denaturalized. Every naturalized citizen knows this. They all know it is one of the penalties. And so, so if you lose your citizenship, then yes, you can be deported, and you have to be deported because you don't have a citizenship. Remember, she was a citizen of Somalia. She came over as a war refugee. Her father was on the losing side of a coup there. And she comes to the United States, and there's a lot of documentary evidence about something very strange going on with a man who, and remember, these stories about, we make the jokes about the brother stuff. Those stories originally came from the Somali community in Minnesota. There were blogs and rumors, and this all came up and said, well, wait a minute. And, there's different naming conventions. They have tribal naming conventions, which are different than sort of like the Western first name, last name that we're used to in the US. And so people were coming up and saying, wait a minute, this guy doesn't have the same last name, but actually, if you understand the naming convention, he is her brother. And here's this marriage document. And again, a lot of these questions, a lot of this needs to get investigated. And here you have the USCIS director saying, we found rampant fraud in immigration, specifically marriage fraud. And everyone knows, of course, that that marriage is, the green card marriage, this is something that's rampant because it puts you on the fast track to citizenship.
Let me ask you, Jack. What do you think happens in this country if they do denaturalize and deport Ilhan Omar? Meaning she is expelled from Congress, citizenship revoked, then sent back to Somalia. What's the left reaction?
I mean, they're going to freak out. They would be probably on the tarmac trying to stop the plane from taking off.
I think that's the kind of political moment that could ignite a powder keg.
And it absolutely. I mean, we already have powder kegs. I mean,
I know, and they're going off.
They asked me. They said, do you think CNN asked me, do you think we're in a civil war? And I said, well, look what they just did to Charlie. I mean, I don't know if you call it a traditional, but asymmetric, fifth generation.
Well, so and that's the challenge, because I've been reading a lot about, as I mentioned this before, French Revolution, Spanish Revolution, and Bleeding Kansas. And one argument,
a guy wrote a book about some of that stuff.
Yeah. One argument as to why we're actually in a civil war is fifth generational warfare, meaning psychological manipulation, resource depletion, and strategies like that indicate there is a real fight for power. However, in terms of raw violence, it looks very much like Bleeding Kansas.
Yeah. So when we wrote the book on humans, where we talked about that, and people would say, this question about are we in a communist revolution? Is it leading towards a civil war, destabilization scenario? And people would push back at us and say, well, wait, we're not seeing things like the French Revolution or the Spanish Civil War, the Bolshevik Revolution taking place. And the argument that we made is that because warfare has changed since those times, which were in many cases 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago, that we shouldn't expect it to necessarily look like it did in the past. And by the way, thank God it doesn't, right? Because these are absolutely horrific. But we are seeing a fifth generation wave of a communist revolution, this asymmetric warfare that's going on. It includes censorship, it includes shunnings, it includes political arrest, and absolutely includes political assassinations. Like, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And you see direct parallels as well to Bleeding Kansas, as you just mentioned, where it sort of became this free-for-all where there was violence, there was reprisal violence, and then it just spilled over.
They killed reporters.
Yep.
People who were writing either and it was both sides.
You mean like
I'm not gonna
a Nick Shirley?
Yeah, they burned down newspaper. One of the big stores, I think. One of the big catalysts was.
This needs to be taken seriously. It really does.
Yeah, you know what's fascinating is how do you move a river is the issue, and the flow of culture in this country and the direction that's going is that at some point the river bifurcated, and as much as there have been people, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about these other journalists and writers who have warned we're on the path of a civil war. There seems to be no way to resolve it because, I mean, what, Trump's not going to agree to go to prison for no reason just because they say he should, and they're not going to back down because they're ideologically driven and they want Trump in prison. There's no stopping. It's an immovable object, an unstoppable force. The Democrats are the unstoppable force. The right is the immovable object. So it seems like no matter what you say, and even if you do take it seriously, the only real way to take something like this seriously is to, like, I don't know, bury a shipping container underground and get a generator and then prepare for the worst.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the Trump administration with a total crackdown, total destruction of leftism is the last off-ramp, because it really does feel like this is the last moment to put a lid on this.
Yeah, so and this is the problem when you mention, Bleeding Kansas, that violence has the unfortunate, and you mentioned as well, violence has the unfortunate tendency to spiral and beget more violence. It escalates, and this is why you need a government to come in and put it down. Charlie and I did an interview talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, and we just pulled it up, and we're pulling up some of the old clips. And he asked me this question. It was so smart, it was so insightful. He said, "Jack, how many communists were there in the early days of the Bolshevik Revolution?" I said, "Probably a couple thousand." And he said, "What was the population of the Russian Empire?" And I actually got it wrong in the interview, and I'll cop to that. I said 50 million. It was actually 100 million at the time.
Wow.
Some studies say even higher. It was also in the middle of a war, so parts of it were disputed, and but north of 100 million. And so he was asking the question: how did so few a group of people take over a country that was so large? And I said, because they didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
They didn't take it seriously, and they kept infiltrating. By the way, it's funny you mentioned this, because what did we talk about today? What was one of the first places that the communists and the Bolsheviks infiltrated in Russia was the military. One of the very first places they did, and they went in under the name of social reform, and they would say these units need to be more diverse, and we need people's units. And so a lot of those original Red Army units were defectors directly from the Imperial Army of Russia.
Wow.
And they would go in, and they'd have one political commissar would flip over an entire unit saying, the Tsar is against Russia. You have to fight for the people to take down the Tsar. And it eventually got to the point where, when it wasn't taken seriously and it was just a couple of thousand people, these, quote unquote, little bits of violence. And Tsar Nicholas wasn't even the first Tsar who was assassinated, but he was the last one who was assassinated, because they drug him and his wife and children into a basement, shot the wife and shot his wife, shot him, and then bayoneted the children to death.
Yeah, they said that they said, look, we were just going to remove you from power, but we can't risk any of your children ever having a claim to thrones.
Correct.
The people must prevail, so we're going to end your lineage now. Wow. Killing his children.
The protection to me against civil war, you've heard me bring this up. Obviously, I believe it's personal faith, right? In terms of people reclaiming these things, because what is it historically that has held people in check and given people a true north? One of the people I think that we should look to is Desmond Doss. Anyone seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so he was a man that he had certain practices.
He was a pacifist.
Yeah. And particularly one of the points here is that he, like Charlie, had an observance of the Sabbath. That if you look at Exodus, it specifically says that when they could keep these holy days, that it was a protection to them. And it actually stopped pestilence and sword. Actually, destruction was averted if they could keep these holy days. It specifically says that. And the words were, let us offer to God in the wilderness, lest he fall upon us with sword or with pestilence. So he's saying, if we can keep this, then there will not be pestilence and sword, violence. And if you look at DOS, right? So if you look at Conscientious Objector was the documentary that the film was based on. 6 times a Japanese soldier reports that he had DOS in his crosshair. And every time he would pull the trigger, it would jam. When he would take it off DOS, it would fire.
Wow.
Now tell me how, on an escarpment where people were getting sawn in half with machine gun bullets, it wasn't called Hacksaw Ridge, it was called an escarpment. They all called it Hacksaw Ridge because people's bodies were getting hacksawed in half by machine gun fire. How did DOS get up like a meerkat? He never crawled out of the holes like in the movie. He just popped up like nothing was there and rescued 75 men in one night. He was protected and by God, and he brought a level of protection to all the soldiers around him, so much so that they went back into the battlefield to find his Bible and risk their lives. And another occasion, 2 groups of about 40 men, he was in one, and he had the ability to pray over them. He kept the Sabbath, and they let him observe that as well, which was amazing. And then both groups come back. 3 people come back from one group of 40. His group, 3 or 4. In his group, no one's injured. In the same regions. So I'm saying that these personal faith aspects are protection. I don't think it's a coincidence that Charlie had his book coming out in December. I think that people need to read it and consider it and get close to God during these times, because people will espouse Christianity, concept of Christianity, without actually letting it embody them and letting it become them and getting close to God and knowing what it's like to walk with God and have that deep faith. And instead, they could use it and weaponize it. And that's what I'm encouraging people to step into.
Faith is extremely important. And this is why communists hate the faith. And when we look at Poland and its kind of movement against communism through solidarity, they did it through the church. The church is the #1 enemy against the communists. We also have to remember, communists have killed a tremendous amount of people throughout recorded human history.
Exactly.
Way more than what we read in the kind of history books. The numbers are just
at least
huge
100
through democide, right? And just understanding that kind of backdrop. I'm always thinking about Yuri Bezmenov, the former KGB agent, that talked about this psychological, ideological kind of subversion that happens in 4 stages to destabilize societies. I think we're at the last stage of what he particularly described.
demoralization?
Yeah, that's I believe that's the one. And
we're in
reaching
demoralization.
We're reaching a kind of tipping point where the mask is finally coming off, and we're seeing the kind of true reality of the demon that really is behind big government, communism, central control, top down, slavery that wants to take away free human will. And that's why freedom, that's why capitalism, that's why sovereignty, independence is so critically important, and the virtues that we need to stand up and fight for, since the opposite of that literally wants to put the boot on your neck.
I think like the part of the problem is in the short term, like we have to create the conditions that would allow this sort of revival to occur, because in the short term we are dealing with people that just want to kill us. So it's like I'm a Christian. I totally agree. We need to reorient the American people towards Christ. But in the short term, we need to completely destroy these leftists, because I don't want to wait on them to like 100%. Potentially come to Christ.
And by the way, Luke, to your point about the demoralization, it wasn't just that it was a leftist who murdered Charlie Kirk. It was about the leftists who celebrated it.
Yeah.
And the fact that this wasn't, yes, you did see like Ilhan Omar and AOC making their comments. You saw Barack Obama go on and smear Charlie even in the same sentence as saying that he, felt bad about what happened. He still has to smear him. He still has to criticize him. He still has to remind people that Charlie was bad. Yeah. And then who were the people who celebrated, right?
All of them?
It was your, it was your doctor, your nurse, your accountant, your HR department. It was people you work with every single day, people you live with on your street. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there going, some of them are celebrating. And then some of them even will say, it shouldn't have happened, but, and that's a huge problem. Yeah. That just shows you the ideological mental capture that's going on in this society, where they'll say, if you have thoughts, remember, Charlie Kirk never once raised a hand in anger. Just never did it. Go find a video. You wouldn't. And if he had, by the way, that'd be all they're showing right now. Right. He never did that. Mm-hmm. But because his thoughts were considered so bad and so impure and so evil that they will make justifications for his murder. The murder of a father, the murder of a husband, the murder of a Christian, the murder of someone, again, who was completely peaceful in everything that he did and always put God forward. They will justify his murder. And if you have a group of people like that in your country, and we have a lot of them, I do believe it's a minority, but it's a significant minority. That's a huge problem.
Well, yeah, and like what you're saying, the only thing that's separating...
It's the fertile ground for everything that Luke was talking about.
Yeah, and the only thing that's separating those nurses and those teachers, and et cetera, from the shooter is that those people have something to lose. Like ideologically, we're dealing with this is all the same thing that we're dealing with, but it's just, yeah, they have something to lose, so they're not going to, I mean, I don't know, it's a powder keg, but yeah, that's why it's so important to completely root out this ideology, because it's all the same.
And then like Leonardo DiCaprio has a new movie out glorifying left-wing terrorists, and left-wing violence in the same week.
So what do you do about a generation, 2 generations that have a large portion of young people with nothing to lose? They have no families, they have no purpose, and so they're gifted their faux non-theistic religion in wokeness, and they're willing to die for it.
Yeah, this is Mangione, this is Tyler Robinson, this is perhaps Thomas Matthew Crooks to an extent. You see a profile starting to emerge of like Thomas Matthew Crooks, for example, the guy who shot Trump, did hit him, but missed and didn't kill him. He had a 1500 SAT, but he was going to community college. Tyler Robinson, someone who also was seen as he had gotten into this great program, but then had dropped out and was going to trade school. I believe at Utah State actually, where he originally gotten into Utah State, where Turning Point is tonight, where this huge event is going on. So you see this profile emerge of these 20-somethings who have tried to achieve something but lost something. And so what we try to talk about when I've delved into this issue is that what the communist typically does, what the Marxist does, is they will take Zoran Mondani, he talks about this, or Mangione himself, but Ivy League student, right? So they'll take actual grievances like the healthcare system in America. And by the way, as a conservative, guys, it's okay to say the healthcare system in America sucks. It's okay to say that there are huge problems. It's okay to say there are huge housing problems in New York City, by the way, and all over the place in America. But we talk about the housing market. You talk about it, Tim, all the time on this program. But as a conservative, or just as someone who understands these types of revolutions, when we're dealing with them, you have to enact statewide policies that try to mitigate these problems. And if you don't mitigate these problems, you will get more Mangiones, you will get more victims, you will get, unfortunately, more Charlie Kirks. And I hate to say it because I know what room I'm sitting in, but you will get more, because this is a historical pattern that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why they're having so much difficulty putting together the pieces with these shooters. And it's because they're losers. They haven't left a legacy. Like, they're completely atomized, unfortunately. And so it's like, yeah, that's why these people are scratching their heads. Like, who are these people? Where did they come from? Why can't we find anything on them? It's like, because they're totally atomized. Like, obviously you're not going to find much on these people.
Yeah, and I have questions. I mean, I really do have questions about, these tweets that I've seen where it seems like other people had foreknowledge.
Oh yeah,
and
totally. Yeah.
Questions about photos and just like anyone. I have so many questions. I mean,
good to have questions.
Even more so in this case, because this is a friend of mine, but at the same time, I do this kind of work. But you want to know what went wrong, and you want to know what happened. But it really, to Tate, to your point, it just comes back to these same issues over and over and over, where people are pushed into more extreme lifestyles. Scott Greer had a great piece in American Conservative about internet-based identities. And internet-based identities is really something that I've been thinking about the same topic. I didn't have the name for it, but this idea that because the real world has become so disconnected for them, because they disassociate with reality, because they feel disenfranchised from reality, you take more identity from places and things that you interact with on the internet. And so now, by the way,
so they become furries and stuff.
Furries, and this guy was doing into furry porn, including what they call child pornography, or cub porn, in the furry parlance, which is a term that I had to learn recently. And now that's not just, now all of that is to say, it isn't because of the internet or because of video games or because of memes. That's not what drives leftism. The Bolsheviks were not on the internet or playing video games. And it's such a cop-out when I hear, particularly it's a lot of boomers, I gotta say it, will say, oh, it's the Discords and the video games and the internets. No, the Bolsheviks did not have the internet. It's because of these forces that cause people to feel disassociated and disenfranchised with reality.
We are going to go to your Super Chats and Rumble Rants, so smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. And we're not doing the uncensored extended portion of the show throughout this week for logistical reasons, so I apologize. But you can still join our Discord server at timcast.com to be a part of that community. And there's people hanging out. There's tens of thousands of people. They want to be friends with you. They're partying, and they're saying, why aren't you hanging out? Well, let's grab some of your Rumble Rants. We'll start with Skyline. He says, after Chattanooga, Tennessee attack, DOD recommended U.S. military give carry permits to troops other than MP. General Milley stopped that and kept most military places gun-free, easy-to-kill zones.
Yeah, and Major Hassan as well down in Fort Hood. Another, I think that was even before Chattanooga. So I want to say Chattanooga was like 2011 and Fort Hood was 2009, something like that. I could be off on my dates, but we had a series of events on military installations, and people would say, well, why don't the military have the ability to respond? And it was because they were unarmed.
All right, let's see what else we got. It's hard to do this on my phone.
Oh, you're literally pulling up on your phone.
Yeah, literally.
That's amazing.
Here we go. All right, what is this? Laz Cyrus says, water takes the easiest way, least resistance possible. We direct the river with solid footings below the water flow. Charlie made me grow those roots.
That's great.
Well, and to my point about how do you move a river, right? Our culture seems to be this massive flow. How do we change it? Fair point. It's actually pretty crazy to see the growth of Turning Point USA, how massive it has become, and even more so now. And that is like a great giant oak planted, and it's going to change the flow of that water.
Or you could even say, obviously, you could say a dam, but if you can't dam the river, how do you divert a river? A bigger river.
What I was thinking is pretty crazy.
Could be Turning Point.
Is with all the crazy conspiracy theories that have come out in the past couple of weeks, did you ever think, Jack, and I don't mean to be crass in this regard, but 10 years ago, with all of these stories that were popping up in media about, say, the Clintons and these theories, you're on X, we're on X, we're talking about it. It was something over there. Now, with the work that you're doing, with the work Charlie was doing, this is the there, and everyone's looking at you, and they have weird theories about what's going on. It's kind of it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. This is the case where I've had more access to, in terms of stories, right? I've had more access to this story than anything I've ever looked at in my life. I've spoken to more eyewitnesses on this than I've spoken to anything, and certainly within a closer time frame to the actual events. I mean, I was talking to people who were at the event when we didn't even know if we knew that, when we just knew that there was a gunshot, but we didn't know exactly what had happened, Charlie. So, being able to talk to people on a direct basis like that, it's weird because, I'm of a mind where, it's how I process things, I guess, where, sometimes, people deal with grief differently. And, for me, it's like getting analytical. It helps me to try to understand and dig through and go down. Believe me, I've gone down every rabbit hole I could find on this thing. And, it still doesn't make it any better. It doesn't, and it's at the end of those rabbit holes, Charlie never comes back.
I just, I mean that.
But I hear you.
It was crazy when, I guess what I mean to say is everything was always over there. It was people I had heard of or had met, but it was not people that I knew. And now, I guess, Turning Point had become so important. Charlie had become so prominent and so important that he became the there. He became the top of the mountain in the political space that everyone wants to know.
They couldn't get Trump, so they said, okay, who are the top lieutenants, right? Who are the top field generals? Who are the top people that we can go after? And at the end of the day, Charlie didn't have a Secret Service element. He didn't have, that level of security, which, by the way, there's incredible security tonight at that arena, and I'm so glad they're there. But Charlie didn't have that. He didn't have the funds for that, the capacity to do all this. And there's some other stuff that's going to come out about that, I'm sure, at the trial, and I'm not going to get ahead of any of that. But it's just it's crazy, man. It's completely crazy. And you know, I will say this though, you know, so we did that memorial a week ago, and you know, I went up there, I gave a speech and eulogy, whatever you want to call it, and people keep asking me, oh, you know, what was it like? What was it like? The biggest crowd, and you know, so many people out on stage, and you know, watching at home, and I just say it was horrible.
Yeah,
every second of it was horrible. It was one of the worst days and worst things I've ever had to do. I mean, like I don't care. Like I would give up all of this to just have my friend back. I mean, I don't want to do any second of this.
I'm sorry, Jack, for your loss.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, truly.
And it's just like, you know, people say, "Oh, wow, what an event," and it's like, no, man, no.
And maybe they want to say that to just what a guy, right? What?
Yeah,
like, what
I don't
honor.
think they mean it in a bad way, but
I know that. What you mean? Yeah.
You want to give me that?
Yeah, I do.
You got some red lights there,
yeah, I'll
Jonathan?
show you this. And I was just gonna say, like when we were chatting before, like the medical arena, we've had so many strange and mysterious things happen, right? And there's so much attack on medical doctors and experts that are getting out things that are not mainstream, and the sudden missing things, and close personal friends of mine over the years, over the past decade for me, and gone, right? And it's just horrible. And so, you know, just this whole thing of like, just sometimes it's the best among us, often that just cut away too short. Dr. Rashid Buttar was a dear friend and mentor. You know, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez. You know, these are cases that people need to know about. Yes, but I do have a gift for you. Thank you.
Yeah. What is this gigantic thing?
Yeah, it's funny.
You don't know
right?
what this is, Tim. Come on.
I know what it is, but I explain it.
Knows.
Yeah.
Right, so this is a gift for you, Tim, and something good for the family. This is none other than red light therapy. So there is your red light therapy device. Look at that. Okay, so it'll go on a stand, right? So you could put it over you and.
Wow, man! How much of this thing?
Right.
Whoa! It's not hot.
No, I mean they range from a few $100s.
And you like, what do you do? You
whoa! I'm feeling my cells or my molecules.
Pants down,
My
you shove your
molecules
ass
get
into it.
You tan your beehole with it. That's what you do.
Whoa!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, warm me, man.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm just blasting it into your eyes. So people are using red light therapy.
Actually, no, it doesn't feel bad on my eyes at all.
Oh, that's good.
No.
People are using red light therapy for, actually funny you mentioned eyes. UCL University did a study where they just had people open their eyes for 3 minutes in the morning. When they looked into the light, they tested their eyesight immediately, 17% improvement in eyesight immediately. There's a study done on 6,400 children, 41 clinical studies with 6,400 children. It was the #1 thing that improved eyesight and stopped eyesight decline.
When they woke up?
Oh, I mean, on the first one, yes, when they woke up.
I wonder if there's a correlation between that and dawn. You're
Yes.
waking up and you're
100%.
seeing the red light.
It's replicating the morning sunrise. The same researchers then tested the subjects in the afternoon. If they did that, they didn't get the same benefit. They didn't get a steep rise. There's a study done on thyroid, enlarged thyroid, so with Hashimoto's. It was a 12-month study. They also used selenium and vitamin D. 96% of the women had their thyroid go back to normal size.
Can it cure baldness?
Yes, it can.
I was joking.
Yes, hair follicle stimulation. So it's stimulating the stem cells in the hair follicles. There's one study showing about 75% of the men had a significant dramatic result with their hair.
I've heard it's scar tissue as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, look at that.
Which then can even relate. There was a Tel Aviv University study on heart muscle scarring, 80% reduction in heart muscle scarring.
Wow.
They combined stem cells in that study.
I didn't believe any of this stuff until I had a kid because we did blue light therapy, which is a normal thing they do in maternity wards for babies. The blue light breaks down, breaks down the bilirubin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, the light does that? And they were like, yeah, the light does that. I'm like, oh, so that like tanning your balls works? And I guess
you just don't want to overheat them. You don't want to make sure that they're too much in.
Right on, man.
And that's why we use the blue in there as well, because it corrects the circadian rhythm and works for neonatal care. And there's 9 different wavelengths of light there. So you see how you're seeing the different shades?
Yeah.
So when breast cancer was tested, they tested 4 different wavelengths against it, triple negative and non-triple negative breast cancer. 660 nanometer penetration out of the 4 wavelengths was the only one that dropped the proliferation by 40%, which means that it actually, in 24 hours, in an in vitro study with human cell lines, Yeah, so this is which is often with cancer, it's called photodynamic therapy, and people are using it. There was a Lancet Oncology study that showed if they used red light, they had a 400% increase in their ability to put prostate cancer in remission. That was with 413 people.
Wow, right on.
It's saving lives.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And it turns off automatically. Is that the timer?
Yeah, it does after 30 minutes. And
right on.
And for people that are trying to recover from long COVID and things like that, there was a study from the European Society of Medicine. 62 people after 4 sessions.
Yeah, turn the cameras.
Yeah, it's killing the cameras.
Well, I guess the camera. I don't know the lights.
Yeah.
Let's. Right on. I appreciate it. We'll grab some more super chats, but it's called Red Life.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes, cool. Red Life, and it's redlightnow.com.
Oh, right on.
Redlightnow.com, and we got some discounts.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I do. We'll have to ship it, but let's grab some more of these.
Yeah, awesome.
Let's see what we got here. Keith McHale says, the funny part that everyone misses with Omar and her brother is the brother is gay. The father thought that Minnesota was less gay, and that is why he sent the son there for the fake marriage. Is that what happened? Okay. All right. K. Sam says, the census counts visa holders. Visa holders, 55 million. U.S. citizens, 340 million. U.S. population, 355. Where are the visa holders in the count? The 55? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Jay Fon says, I live in LA and have had multiple DoorDash deliveries by no name given. Each time was someone different. California is falling apart, and if Newsom becomes president, I fear for the rest of the United States. Don't we all?
Yeah, it was New York City. It was I remember it was a joke when I lived in Manhattan because there's one guy named Emmanuel, and he did 11,000 deliveries in a month because it's just 30 people using the same account. It's totally absurd, the amount of fraud that's going on. And it's the food delivery apps are propping up a lot of this because you can just share the same account. It's crazy.
All right, Mark Connolly says, I worked as a maintenance contractor for an Army base for 9 years. During 2013 shutdown, I was out of work for 2 weeks with no pay. Government employees got back pay. Contractors do not. Interesting. That's a bummer. 3-star Perfect Deer says the 100,000 workers should be replaced with illegals. No, I get the attempt at the insult to the federal workforce, but not a good idea.
Well, did you guys see this ADL thing?
Which one? That TPUSA was on it?
The TPUSA is off of it.
Oh,
and
really?
And that the ADL just released this statement. I'm literally just seeing this now that they're kind of defending the glossary, and a bunch of stuff is down. With over 1,000 entries written over many years, the glossary is served as is high level. At the same time, a number of entries in the glossary were outdated.
Interesting.
And so now it looks like they've taken a lot of the ADL glossary offline after, again, Elon Musk and so many other people are pointing out that they were attacking Turning Point USA. And it's been this huge, sort of online narrative right now. And by the way, there's still the page up on Turning Point, which also attacks Charlie, even in death. And you can still find that if you just search Turning Point in Google and ADL, but the actual page itself doesn't link to it. And so they're on the ropes. They're totally on the ropes.
They were just celebrating how Alex Jones got deplatformed from YouTube. And why would you celebrate that? I mean, the ADL is pretty much... the guy running it, he's pretty much running a lot of the same Barack Obama policies that divided this nation.
All right, Bam says, Christ is the off-ramp, maybe the only one. He's the ultimate de-radicalizing force. Study the Bible, live the gospel, save the country and yourself.
So true.
So I have a question for you, Jack, because we had a priest on, and we discussed exorcisms in the United States and the need for them. And I asked him, what do you think would happen if you tried to exorcise a leftist by force?
What do you mean, tied him down and went for it?
No. Just what would happen if there's a bunch of leftists protesting, and there's a line, so there's no fighting, and you walked up, a priest walked up and started trying to bless them and exorcise demons. How would they respond?
They might attack him.
As if they were demons being exorcised.
Yep.
And what would happen if there was a Christian conservative and the priest walked up to him and started blessing them and
probably say thank you?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm isn't that kind of funny? Because even if you don't believe in this stuff, the leftists would actually act like they were demons being exorcised.
Yes. When we did the do you remember the LA Dodgers thing with the Sisters of
Thank
Perpetual Indulgence? They had like the trans sisters.
Yep.
So we did this huge Catholic rosary march. We had like thousands of people in downtown LA outside of the Dodger Stadium. And Bishop Strickland came. And so a lot of us were worried about potential violence or, counter-protest, whatever, something. It's LA, right?
Yeah.
And we had Bishop Strickland come, and he prayed for the entire march a prayer of protection. And he prayed that the entire march would be protected, that there would be no violence. And you know what it's like when you go to one of these things. You always get like a platoon of Antifa or some of these types who get up and like start causing trouble. And we did have them out there, but this was so interesting. They never crossed the street to our side.
That's weird.
After Bishop Strickland did that. And I've never seen that before.
Well, what the father told us is that one of the ways you test for a possession is that you hold something sacred. He used
sacramentals.
Something more, yeah. And they won't want to go near you.
Right.
Yeah.
So they in demonology they hate sacramentals. So it's not like they'll they'll run away if you hold up a crucifix like in a vampire movie or something. But it's to your point. It inspires this hatred and this anger.
Yeah.
My granddad was an evangelist, a pastor, and he died when I was 1. My grandma, when I was 19, I was asking her lots of spiritual questions. She said, there's a tape in the attic. I'd literally pull out this tape, and it's the recording of a deliverance or exorcism. One woman has 30 different personalities, and they're not just personalities. Their voice sounds like Gollum. It was so scary. I was scared of the dark for another year and a half.
They can speak in languages that they'd never heard before.
They did speak in tongues on there, and then they interpreted it, saying that they were blaspheming God. They talked about crucifying Jesus. They talked about Eve taking the fruit. It was the most eerie thing I'd ever heard, and it sent.
I've seen it in real life.
Scared me. Yeah, you've seen it.
I've seen it in real life. The demons are real.
Yeah.
This is a spiritual war more than a lot of people understand it to be. And I don't even want to get into what I saw.
It woke me up.
I'm just saying, people were like, Poso, why do you carry the rosary everywhere with you? And had it on stage, and it's a spiritual war. It's the same reason that we have holy water in our house. We have icons up. I have a crucifix in every bedroom, the same way my parents had crucifix in every bedroom. I use holy water to bless our cars. Even, when we get like a new car, you bless it,
Is it offensive to have weapons blessed?
No.
So if you have like a rifle at home, or
Tim, let's just say this wouldn't be the first time that weapons had been blessed.
Well, yeah, I know, but like there are certain circumstances where you understand why you would want weapons to be blessed.
As long as you're using it right, as long as you're using it for defense, and as long as you're not using it in an offensive type of capability.
Right.
If you're using it to defend yourself, your family, then of course.
Yeah.
And I've seen people. There was one case where I helped somebody get delivered from a demonic possession, but intercessory prayer is the thing. So let's say somebody doesn't want something and they want to do the wrong thing. You pray on behalf of them, basically committing them to God, saying this person belongs to God, and I commit them to you on behalf of them. So it's intercessory. So even though they don't want it, and it takes a lot of love and forgiveness, but it's the way to me.
It's pretty crazy. I think there's a lot of. I'm not saying this to try and insult atheists or anything like that. You don't have to believe what I believe, but I do think there's a lot of ego in atheism, in this idea that there is no God. We are just wet robots in an indifferent universe. That's asserting yourself to a very high degree in terms of your purpose and your intellect. Yeah.
I've always said, a great place to start on this, and the more like doctrinal purists will probably get mad at me for saying this, but the Conjuring movie series, it's if you're someone who's just like, I have no idea how any of this stuff works, but I'm kind of a little bit interested. That's based on 2 people who lived in real life and encountered the demonic and encountered the occult, and were even Ed Warren was actually recognized by the Vatican as a demonologist. And so you watch those films, yeah, it's Hollywood, of course, but they get a lot right. I'm just saying they get a lot right.
I find it's strange to me that there are so many stories from people that defy logic or known science, and skeptics will say no to these stories instead of simply saying it's something we don't understand yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing to always remember if you're ever in these situations is simply the name of Jesus.
Absolutely.
And the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus.
I teach my kids this. I teach my kids this exactly. Just remember the name of Christ. You know, and like we pray at home in English and in Latin, but at the end of the day, it's just if you just say the name of Jesus, because this is clear, and there are you know, the demons must obey Christ as well, because even a demon knows that Christ is the Christ.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who talk about being attacked by demons, and then they say, you know, Jesus Christ's name, and then demons go away. And there's so many different accounts like that. It's wild. It's not coordinated. I believe it's absolutely real
because it's legal. You're claiming authority, and so that entity that's trying to gain possession, trying to own you, but you don't belong to that demon. It's usurping. It's taking something that doesn't belong to them. So you claim yourself as being of Jesus, of God. I belong to God. Jesus is my savior.
So for Catholics, for example, not just Catholics, but this is why we baptize babies. So a baptism actually is a form of exorcism in the sense that you're exorcising the original sin, but you're also marking that soul for God. And so the idea being then that, and it's obviously not through their own volition, but it's through that of their parents, and then the godparents, and then eventually there's a series of sacraments to get you fully involved in the church as you age. But the idea being that I'm sure there's lots of Protestant arguments against it, and I totally am down, and I've had those arguments all the time, but I'm just saying the way we look at it is this is a way of marking that child for God.
And that is what's in your heart. Dedication is big. Yeah.
So we do have a bunch of these super chats, which I figure I have to ask because a lot of people are asking. BB, well, that's the name they chose, says, what is his opinion on Candace Owens investigating Charlie's death? Do you think she's farming for content, or is she doing the right thing? Another said, do you think that Candace Owens is spiraling into baseless conspiracies that are very far-fetched in regard to Charlie's murder? Man, I don't know. I don't want, a lot of people have asked. I don't know if you have anything to say on the matter.
Yeah, I mean, I've kept up with it as much as I can. I've seen things here or there. Look, I think people are reaching out to her with information. People are reaching out to us with information, and I think she's asking questions, and I think that's what she's always done. Look, Candace is my friend. I've always been friends with Candace. Candace always had my back. I've always had her back, and it's one of those things where people will say, oh, well, is she pushing things in this direction or that direction? And I don't necessarily think it's her pushing. I think it's her searching.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think like when people say farming for content, I'm like, I don't know her that well. I kind of think she believes what she believes. You know what I mean?
I don't think Candace is going to go on in front of a camera and say something that she doesn't believe.
Yeah.
I just don't think that is. And by the way, and in what I've seen, she's always said, somebody reached out to me with this piece of information. This is something that I have questions about this. I have questions too.
There are a lot of people. One thing I don't appreciate. Take that for what it means. I'm not trying to be a dick to anybody. Is claiming that I talked with Andrew Colby the other day that he or Eric aren't grieving properly. This is like the new conspiracy. Oh, look at her. She's laughing on a show, or she's smiling, and I'm just like, yeah. There's a whole organization and tons of people who are doing the exact same thing, working every day, who knew and loved Charlie. I mean, I don't know what the general expectation is among these people who believe this. Like, you give up on life, you just go into a cave and never come back out, or do you persevere?
I mean, I'll just say, I've seen them both on camera and off, and if you really think that these people aren't grieving the loss of someone that was that close to them, or that Erica is not grieving, then you just, it's just, you have no idea. You have no idea what's going on, and the fact that she's even able to do that and be on camera. And by the way, like, I'm the same way, right? I've been on camera since this happened, and yeah, I've shed tears. And there was a moment I was over at Bannon's when we did War Room, and like right after we got the news, and I got through the show. I was very upset. I was angry, right? I was in that anger phase. And after the show ended, I broke down, and I was just sobbing. And I just couldn't believe this happened. And no, I didn't time it so that it happened on camera, but it still happened. I mean, grief is like that. Grief is a roller coaster. It's weird. And sometimes I'll just hear a song, and we were at church on this weekend, and they played On Eagle's Wings, and they played Be Not Afraid, and I couldn't hold it together. Totally couldn't hold it together.
Wow.
All right. We got Millennial Mama says, Luke, I ordered 2 shirts last night. The RFK Jr. one is hilarious. Maybe awesome shirts is how we'll identify ourselves in the Civil War. P.S. I have ancestry from Upper Silesia.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to meet like-minded people. Like where when I wear the
There you
shirt,
go.
I always meet cool Slavic people, and it's a great way, especially if you're introverted, to do your lazy form of activism, but to let people know where you stand, but also to, more importantly, make people laugh. I feel like we're under very heavy, dark times right now, and I think we need to laugh. And I got a lot of ridiculous shirts. You're going to see them tomorrow. I might have to put black tape on them because some of them are too spicy. But I think right now, in the face of everything that's happening, we have to speak out more than ever. So thank you so much for purchasing the shirts. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Acoustic Theory says, remember, communism wins when more people agree and join their cause. Communism loses when people turn away and say no thanks. Communism is subversive, and the only protection is inoculation. Ian talked about this on the show, about how he has to provide information inoculation to his parents because they're like default libs. He'll see a story and he'll go, oh, the media's going to lie about this. I better call my parents. And he'll immediately call them and say, hey, here's what happened. Because then they're going to turn on MSNBC or CNN and be given the lies. So he's like, I got to give them the information first to inoculate them from the lie that will come from the press later.
I mean, look, they say communism wins. Communism wins when it's not stopped. It's really as simple as that. It's that good people have to come together and say, we can't go down this road. And you need the Christians, you need the revival, you need and I said that in my speech. I really meant that. I think if Charlie's sacrifice is to mean anything, that 100 years from now, whatever it is, when it looked like Western civilization was on the brink when we were going through the fourth turning, that Charlie's sacrifice gave us the ability to fight back and save Western civilization in the only way possible, by returning the people to God. The only way. It's the only way to be that firm bulwark, that dam in the river, to say, no, we are not going to keep going down this direction. We are going to go back to who we are.
Right on. Well, everybody, that about does it for tonight. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Join our Discord server at timcast.com. Click join us. There's tens of thousands of people there. They're all hanging out. There's pre-shows, there's after shows, and they're having a party. They want to know why you're not there. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Jonathan, do you want to shout anything out?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You can follow me and we'll find what we're doing with our red light devices at redlightnow.com. That's redlightnow.com. And we're just really happy and excited to help people right now with these chronic health conditions with these amazing products.
Right on. Who's taking it, Jack or Luke? What's up?
Jack, you go ahead.
By the way, I'm just going to throw that out that, in fact, I can say on air that the Post Millennial is reporting now, it's not just those, because I was going through the glossary of the ADL earlier and I was trying to figure out why are the links not working. The ADL has completely retired the entire glossary of extremism effective immediately.
Wow.
So the organization that was supposed to be tracking, and the experts that work with the FBI and local law enforcement and all these other agencies all around the country has just admitted that their most important glossary and documentary piece was wrong and had to delete the entire thing.
Wow.
And it just goes to show you what smear merchants these guys are. Yeah. And I wish this never happened. I wish that it hadn't gotten this far and taken the death of Charlie Kirk to be able to push this over the edge. Honestly, I don't think this is a redeemable organization, just given what they've done. And, okay, you took it down, but great. Like, can you please show me the department where I can get my friend back, where Erica can get her husband back, where those kids can get their dad back? No, I don't think that department exists.
They ran cover for Antifa. They said Antifa is just a normal organization.
They're not violent.
Oh yeah, TPUSA, couple of bad eggs,
extremist
couple of jokers in there, but it's Turning Point. That's the worry. So shout out to anyone. Shout out to Turning Point USA. Shout out to join a Turning Point chapter. And if you can't find one, start one. You just became the head of your Turning Point chapter. So it's tpusa.com, tpaction.com, by the way. And huge shout out to the Patriots of New Jersey. I think I think we can win New Jersey. I think we can flip New Jersey. And if we're going to do it, we might as well do it for Charlie.
Dirty Jersey. Where can people find you?
At Jack Posobiec.
Thank you so much, Jack. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I always appreciate all the time I get to spend with you guys. YouTube.com/WeAreChange. Check it out. I do a lot of videos on there. I've been working overtime. So if you appreciate it, check it out. YouTube.com/WeAreChange.
Yeah, follow me on X and Instagram at RealTateBrown. Trust the plan, never surrender.
We will see you all tomorrow on the Charlie Kirk Show, as well as back for Timcast IRL. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.